Greetings, Culturians, and welcome back to the channel. We've got breaking news, or at least some interesting news, as things start to fall apart in media. We, of course, talk about layoffs, but there's more going on here than meets the eye. So here we go. Now, before we get started, just a quick reminder, double check you're still subscribed to the channel. And if you're not, if you're part of the 40% that isn't, please subscribe now. You'll be doing me a huge favor. We will get closer to 50K, and you won't miss important news like these layoffs and more impending disasters. And with that, let's jump into the first story coming to us from Deadline. And while the story may be a few days old and this news was kind of breaking over the weekend, what's really occurring is something I don't think people are prepared for. The massive number of layoffs coming to all the news media outlets. For example, CNBC looks to trim international staff. Well, that's already being done. In fact, I'd heard about this all the way back on the 2nd or the 3rd of September, and we're just finally getting around to it, making it to the news on the 5th. Well, here we are now, and we're looking back at this going, okay, what else is happening? Well, plenty. You see, CNBC has an international staff that it may not need. For the most part, we're starting to see jobs like at an international media company be released into AI. AI is now becoming the new factor that's stripping jobs away from all parts of the media. From the story, business TV network CNBC is taking steps to shed up to 24 workers. That's 24, that's 24 workers that are going to be out of a job. Their international operation, which is based in London and Singapore, and some other offices around the globe, don't really need that many people. Due to British labor laws, they have to delay or slow roll this particular move because there has to be a quote-unquote consultation. And once the layoffs take effect, they're not going to replace those people because of the employment silliness in the UK. I think nobody in their right mind would put another body over there that can be replaced by AI. The editorial positions are in the digital area of the company. Again, easy to replace with something like ChatGPT or even Grok, maybe even something else that maybe has a little bit more ability with the written word. Regardless, their statement says, we are currently consulting on the proposed changes to the organizational structure of the international team to ensure we are best positioned to deliver our long-term strategic priorities, which, believe it or not, is less people. In fact, in the globe as it currently is being managed under leadership, they're deciding to eliminate as much of the carbon that is represented by humans. So you want to talk about carbon reduction, they'll get rid of you. Ultimately, in the coming months, CNBC and all other cable networks, apart from Bravo, are currently being shed by NBCU, which is obviously getting rid of things through this Versant spinoff, or they're getting rid of the people within the organizations. The streamlining of CNBC is not directly related to the spinoff, insiders said, but Versant is looking to staff up and fill some 750 positions across its networks as it finalizes its separation from NBCU, which they have to do. They have to build a news organization, but for how long? Because once everybody's kind of up to speed, how much of that news gathering will be done by actual humans? It's a good question. But we have another question that needs answered. What's going to happen inside of PBS? Well, massive layoffs are coming to PBS after federal funding cut, and up to 80 national public radio stations could shut down. Not to mention all the people that work there, which, again, I never understood why there were so many people if there was so little to actually do from the studio side of the equation. PBS actually announced last week it would eliminate approximately 15% of its workforce. But wait a minute, I thought the folks over at Public Broadcasting were telling us there really isn't a lot of public money in PBS. Well, 15% anyway. In fact, Congress's decision to eliminate all federal funding for public broadcasting will be in effect as of October 1st. The cuts are going to affect at least 34 staff members, they were unfortunately notified last week on Thursday, which compound earlier losses, including major federal grants for educational initiative discontinued this summer, combined with the elimination of about 36 vacant positions, which, like many corporations, seem to be permanent, where they have jobs open, but they don't hire anybody. PBS is set to lose over 100 jobs in total, reshaping the organization's operational landscape. And the decision stems from a 21% revenue hit that was outlined by PBS chief executive Paula Kerger. The congressional rescission, a clawback of $1.1 billion in planned expenditures over the next 2 years, coupled with the Trump administration's termination of significant U.S. education grants, has forced PBS to make tough financial decisions. Despite efforts to mitigate the impact, including slashing travel budgets and halting merit pay evaluations. The scale of the funding loss necessitated workforce reductions. Kerger emphasized that every facet of PBS operations would feel the impact, underscoring the severity of the financial strain. And there it is again. Where is the strain coming from? Because I thought that the public didn't give you so much money, maybe in the form of grants and other things that you overlooked. It might be a little more important to cover news in a more fair and balanced way. But regardless, we're about to see PBS fall apart. CNBC is going to be downsizing, not just the international jobs we just talked about, but also here in the United States and around the rest of the globe. In fact, I would suspect that CNBC is just a tiny little bite out of the apple compared to what's going to happen in larger news organizations like CNN, which in my opinion should be spun out into its own independent sphere and will promptly find its way to the bottom and out of existence probably in the next decade. In fact, there's a decent chance that about 50% of the digital news information outlets that are currently in existence will not exist in the next decade. And that's truly saying something. So I have to ask the question, do you think any of the digital news outlets that we use on a regular basis will still be there in 5, 10, 15 years? Do you think that the landscape as far as websites and linear media assets will still be in existence? For example, do you think ABC, NBC, CBS will be here? What about Fox? Or do you think they will be completely replaced by YouTube and offerings of a similar nature that actually inform people authentically with up-to-date information? Well, for me, I think that's likely the direction we're headed, and the old-fashioned legacy media, well, it'll be something of the past, just like the horse and buggy whips. And since this is audience participation at this time, I'd like to know your thoughts down in the comment section below. What is news media gonna look like in the next decade? As always, be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, and until next time, see ya! But not on PBS.